अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। नमो महावदन्याय कृष्णप्रेमप्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्णचैतन्य नामिने गौरतिशे नमः। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवास आदि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। मूकं करोति वाचालं पंगुं लंघायते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरु दीनतारिणं श्रीपरमानन्दमाधवं श्रीचैतन्यमीश्वरम्। Hare Krishna. I am extremely grateful that all of you have joined in this cold winter morning session. I am simply touched by all of your sincerity. Hare Krishna. So we were discussing about from the 6th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, and we were discussing about Chitraketu Maharaj and Vritrasur pastimes. So how these pastimes came into the context of Srimad Bhagavatam is also very important for all of us to understand. So in the 6th canto, Sukadeva Goswami tells about the descendants of Daksha. We'll be hearing about the story of Daksha. So this is Daksha in his second incarnation. So Daksha in his first incarnation was directly born from Brahma. He was directly, Daksha doesn't have a mother. In his first incarnation, he didn't have a mother. He was just directly born from the thumb of Brahma. Brahma just did thumbs up and Daksha was born. Just imagine how nice it would be if there's so much of difficulty in planning for a kid and all, but Brahma just does. We can simply imagine how powerful is Brahma. And just he did thumbs up and Daksha was born. But Daksha offended Lord Shiva, and we will elaborately hear the pastime in some next sessions onwards. And because he offended Lord Shiva, and then he got a goat's body, and it was a goat's head, and it was a very, very embarrassing situation for Daksha. And then Daksha came back again, and this second Daksha, again Daksha actually got the instruction from his father Brahma to create. Daksha was expert in creating progeny and filling the entire universe with lot of population. And again, Daksha started creating boys. And those boys, Daksha created 10,000 sons and then 1,000 sons. 11,000 sons Daksha created. Can you imagine? 11,000 sons. And every single son, 11,000, were they became sannyasis by the inspiration of Narad Muni. Hare Krishna. Just imagine, Daksha actually sent all these 11,000 sons that you go to forest, get internship, get training, and then come back, get married, and then again join me in my service of increasing the population in this world. And Narad Muni, inspiration, they became sannyasis. And Daksha was outraged. He offended Narad Muni. We will see those pastimes elaborately. It comes in the first section of the 6th canto. And then he went to Brahma. You see, how do I do my service? You know, this Narada made everyone as brahmachari and sannyasi. So Brahma says that now you create daughters. You create only girls. You don't create boys. So Narad Muni will not approach because it's forbidden to preach to ladies, and ladies should preach to ladies, and men should preach to men, and Narada will not go and preach to the girls. So you create daughters. And Daksha was very happy with this idea, and Daksha created 60 special daughters. So out of the 60 special daughters, so Sukadeva Goswami in the 6th canto is telling about the descendants of these 60 daughters with whom they got married. So they got actually married to many, many rishis. And from there, lot of population came. And actually our Gotra is based on these rishis getting married to different daughters of Daksha. So 17 daughters, 17 daughters out of the 60 daughters were given to Kashyapa Muni. And that is how one of the Gotra is Kashyapa. Kashyapa means the Gotra which comes from Kashyapa. Kashyapa got 17 daughters of Daksha, and someone who is from Kashyapa Gotra is, I think, from one of the daughters and Kashyapa Muni. One of the daughters and Kashyapa Muni. Similarly, Bharadwaj Rishi got, and Bharadwaj Gotra, and then Surya Dev got, and then it's a description of all those people who got. So Aditi was one of the daughter, and Diti was one of the daughter. Aditi and Diti, they were sisters. Among the 17 sisters who got married to Kashyapa Muni, two's name were Aditi and Diti. So from Aditi and Kashyapa came Adityas, or the demigods. And while Sukadeva Goswami was describing about the Adityas, one of the Adityas' name was Twashtha. I think now you are able to understand the context. And while telling about Twashtha, Sukadeva Goswami said Twashtha's son was Viswarup, and Twashtha was married to the daughter of a demon, Rachana, and Twashtha's son was Vishwarup, and Vishwarup was killed by Indra, who was also another Aditya. And Parikshit Maharaj is amazed. How can one Aditya kill another Aditya? How can one demigod kill one demigod? Please tell me the story. And that's how Sukadeva Goswami tells the story of the Vritrasur, Chitraketu Maharaj, and which all of you heard elaborately. And when all these pastimes get over, so Sukadeva Goswami resumes his discussions on the descendants of the daughters of Daksha. And then, while in the course of discussion, Sukadeva Goswami explains about the descendants of Diti and Kashyapa. So Diti and Kashyapa, from Diti and Kashyapas, they came the Daityas. Daityas matlab the sons of Diti. But they became demons. They became against the demigods. So the first two sons are the celebrated Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha. All of you know about them. So Sukadeva Goswami says that Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha were the two celebrated sons of Diti. They were celebrated actually. Till date, there has been no demon like Hiranyakashipu. And there will be no demon like Hiranyakashipu. Even Ravana and Sisupal and all these were also demons, but Ravana was Treta Yuga demon and Sisupal was the Dwapar Yuga version. But Hiranyakashipu was the Satyuga version, most powerful. It's very, very. Hiranyakashipu's, we will read in the 7th canto about Hiranyakashipu elaborately. So Sukadeva Goswami explains about Hiranyaksha, Hiranyakashipu, and then Hiranyakashipu had 4 sons and 1 daughter, Prahlada, Anulada, Lada and Samlada, all Ladas, and 1 daughter, Simhika. And Simhika married with another demon, and from Simhika came Rahu. All of you know Rahu, right? Rahu, that. So Rahu is actually Hiranyakashipu's daughter's son. And then Prahlad's descendants are mentioned. Prahlad's son was Birochan. Birochan's son was Bali Maharaj. And Sukadeva Goswami says, I will explain in detail about Bali Maharaj and his surrender later on. And Bali Maharaj's son was Banasur. Banasur, though Bali Maharaj was devotee of Krishna, Banasur, his son, became devotee of Lord Shiva. And Banasur actually is the most dedicated servant of Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva practically guards Banasur's capital. That's what Sukadeva Goswami mentions. And then Sukadeva Goswami says a very interesting thing. Sukadeva Goswami says, then Diti had 49 other sons who are called Maruts, but they became demigods. Immediately, as soon as Parikshit Maharaj hears about this statement that Diti had more 49 sons called the Maruts and they became demigods. So Parikshit Maharaj is curious to know how come generally Diti's sons would associate with the demons and you become what you associate with. They would be associating with the demons, and how come these sons of Diti, they became devotees? Please tell me the story. I want to hear the story how they became demigods. So today's entire section begins. So again Sukadeva Goswami halts in his description of the descendants of the daughters of Daksha and speaks elaborately on this story of how Diti's son, who were supposed to become Daityas, who were supposed to become demons, became devotees of the Lord, became demigods. So with this question, Sukadeva Goswami is speaking this. Sutta Uvacha. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So this is the verse from 6th canto, 18th chapter, 22nd verse. Okay, so let's recite this verse. Shri Shuta Uvacha. Anyone? Tad Vishnuраtasya Savadarayane बचो निशम्यादृतमल्पमर्थवत् सभाजयन् सन्निभृतेन चेतसा जगाद सत्रायण सर्वदर्शन तद्विष्णुरातस्य सवादरायणे बचो निशम्यादृतमल्पमर्थदत् सभाजयन् सन्निभृतेन चेतसा जगाद सत्रायण सर्वदर्शन Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Sri Shutas Goswami said, O great Saunaka, after hearing Parikshit Maharaj speak respectfully and briefly on topics essential to hear, Sukadev Goswami, who was well aware of everything, praised his endeavor with great pleasure and replied. Purport. Maharaj Parikshit's question was very much appreciated by Sukadev Goswami because although it was composed of a small number of words, it contained meaningful inquiries about how the sons of Diti, although born as demons, became demigods. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur stresses that even though Diti was very envious, her heart was purified because of a devotional attitude. Another significant topic is that although Kashyapa Muni was a learned scholar and was advanced in spiritual consciousness, he nonetheless fell a victim to the inducement of his beautiful wife. All these questions were posed in a small number of words, and therefore Sukadev Goswami very much appreciated Maharaj Parikshit's enquiry. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So we see here how Parikshit Maharaj, in the entire Srimad Bhagavatam, if you see, Sukadev Goswami keeps on speaking a very elaborate pastime in just one verse. And it is Parikshit Maharaj's eagerness to hear more that inspires Sukadev Goswami to elaborate that pastime. We saw in Chitraketu and Vritrasur section also where Sukadev Goswami was just told it casually that there was Tvashta and there was Vishwarup, and Vishwarup was killed by Indra. And that's how Parikshit Maharaj spoke the entire pastime. Parikshit Maharaj asked and he was curious to know about it, and Sukadev Goswami told about the entire pastime. In the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam, all the sages of Naimisharanya, they are also very curious to know how come Sukadev Goswami was so renounced that he would not even stay in a place for some few seconds. He would just roam around. He used to not even wear any clothes. That was the renunciation of Sukadev Goswami, and the sages of Naimisharanya, they're asking, how could Sukadev Goswami sit for 7 days? What made Sukadev Goswami sit for 7 days? And Suta Goswami says that how Parikshit Maharaj was so eager, and his eagerness and enthusiasm to hear actually made Sukadev Goswami speak. So this is the first essential lesson that we are going to discuss in this pastime. And the lesson is that we can derive the benefit from our association with spiritual master based on our eagerness and enthusiasm. The spiritual master can be very great like Sukadeva Goswami, but we need to understand that we need to develop the quality like Parikshit Maharaj in order to derive the benefit from the words of the spiritual master. The words of the spiritual master are extremely potent, and it requires eagerness and enthusiasm to actually access the power in the words, the strength in the words of the spiritual master. We see how Parikshit Maharaj is so attentive and absorbed. He is not thinking what I have to do, what I have not to do. He is fully absorbed in hearing. We should understand this fact that our spiritual life is very much dependent on the attentiveness and absorption of hearing the sound vibration, the spiritual sound vibration. How attentively and absorbed we are, and how enthusiastic we are to absorb ourselves in the spiritual sound vibration. Because the whole process, according to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the entire Krishna consciousness process begins with hearing, Shravanam. There is a beautiful sutra. You know how Vyasadeva compiled everything and made something called Vedanta Sutras. So in one of the aphorism of Vedanta Sutra, one of the sutra is called Anabriti Sabdat. Anabriti Sabdat. Sabda or sound has the potency to do anabriti, uncover. And our enthusiasm to actually hear it very attentively, with eagerness to learn and apply, with faith in the words of the spiritual master, will actually help us to uncover our spiritual identity. Anabriti Sabdat. Abriti means covering up. Anabriti means uncover. We are all being illusioned in this material world, and we have forgotten our spiritual identity, our relationship with Krishna. And the only way out is to put faith on the words of spiritual master and hear attentively. Very, very attentively. This is something like vitamin H, or like we take vitamins, and we have different vitamins, B12, A12 and A13 and whatever, all vitamin C. In COVID they fed me so much of vitamin C. So vitamin H, hearing very attentively, understanding that my entire spiritual life depends on the quality of my hearing. How attentively I am hearing, how attentively I am making notes of whatever I am hearing, how absorbed I am. Sometimes we may just actually with Parikshit Maharaj, there were so many sages who had assembled. And Parikshit Maharaj was not just thinking, oh, Sukadeva Goswami is speaking, let me just skip and go to Krishna Leela. Parikshit Maharaj was attentively absorbed with every word that was coming from the mouth of Sukadeva Goswami. So this is one quality that we have to derive and develop, that we have to become very attentively. We have to understand that the spiritual master is speaking to me for my advancement. And more I'm absorbed in understanding what he is speaking, more and more I will advance. There is the famous story of Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada had gone for a yatra along with his god brothers to Vrindavan Dham. His god brothers and Srila Prabhupada and everyone had gone to Vrindavan along with Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. So one morning when Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur was giving a class, it was announced that you have two options. One is that you all can go and take the darshan of Seshashayi Vishnu. We heard about Seshashayi Vishnu's pastime in Vrindavan Dham. You all can go and take darshan of Seshashayi Vishnu. And the other option is you all can hear from Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who is going to speak. Most of the devotees they left. There were few sannyasis, and behind Abhay Babu, who was still now not initiated, Srila Prabhupada was not initiated and was sitting. And Srila Prabhupada later on says that I was not able to understand anything what is happening, what Guru Maharaj was speaking. But I thought that what I am going to see the Seshasai Vishnu. I have no eyes to even see Krishna. Let me sit down and hear from my spiritual master. And when the disciples of Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur recommended Srila Prabhupada's name for initiation, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur actually remembers this incident when Srila Prabhupada didn't go away and said, I would initiate him because he likes to hear. So we must understand that the basis of the relationship with a sadhu, with Guru, is the sound vibration, it's the words. And how attentive we are to hear them, how attentive we are to apply them, how attentive we are to report back what you applied and what we failed to apply, will determine the course of our spiritual life. If all of us want to see ourselves or yourself, if all of you want to see that in the end of the life, I want to see myself in Golok Vrindavan. I don't know how many of you really want to see yourself in Golok Vrindavan at least, but I want to see myself in Golok Vrindavan at the end of the life. If all of us want to really find ourselves in Vrindavan Dham at the end of this life, we need to seriously understand this principle of hearing attentively, applying it in our life, and understanding that the words of the spiritual master are my only strength. And the way I follow them, the way I consider them as absolute truth themselves, to that extent I will advance in Krishna consciousness. There is another story of Sabari. Sabari was a small girl, 8-year-old girl, when Matang Rishi said that we are all going back to Ayodhya, but you do not come with us, you stay here near Pampa Sarovar, because Lord Ramachandra is going to come and I want on my behalf you serve Lord Ramachandra. And Sabari had so much of faith on the words of his spiritual master that she stayed from the 8 years of age every day. Every day Sabari was cleaning and wiping the hut of Matang Rishi and getting flowers, getting berries and fruits and everything to serve Lord Ramachandra thinking that Lord Ramachandra will come today. And it took almost 80 years for Lord Ramachandra to arrive in Matang Rishi's ashram. By that time, Sabri had become old. She was not able to see anything. So exactly in the same way, Srila Prabhupada and our gurus and acharyas have said that if you chant Hare Krishna, then Krishna will come and take you back to spiritual world. But if we have faith on these words of spiritual master, then we'll chant every day attentively, like Sabri, who was so attentive in every day. Every day Sabri would clean the hut. And in the evening when Lord Ramachandra will not come, Sabri will not get frustrated thinking, my spiritual master is useless, number one. He just see Krishna didn't come. She would think, actually I didn't clean properly today. And because I didn't clean properly and the fruits I brought were not of good quality, that is why Lord Ram didn't come today. Tomorrow I will do it more meticulously so that Lord Ram will definitely appear, because my Gurudev has said that Lord Ram will appear. And Sabri was waiting and waiting. She was not getting frustrated. She was not thinking that, Lord Ram, when he is not coming. My Guru is just said like that. Maybe my Guru gave a casual remark. He just spoke like this because he just speaks like this. Just maybe Lord Ram will appear in my mind. There was no maybe for Sabri. If my Gurudev has said this is going to happen, and it is my sincerity, my eagerness, which will actually make it happen. So in that consciousness, Sabri was waiting and cleaning up every day. So exactly in the same way, if we are every day understanding that if I perform my devotional service with utmost eagerness and enthusiasm, if I chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra with eagerness and enthusiasm every day, and if we fail to receive Krishna, and if we do not get reciprocations from Krishna, we should think that maybe I didn't chant nicely today. Tomorrow I will chant more nicely. But the faith on the words of the spiritual master is what will carry us ahead in our spiritual life. This is the indhan, the fuel according to Srimad Bhagavatam. Nirdehamadyam sulabham sudurlabham plabam sukalpam guru karnadharam mayanukulena nabhaswateritam puman birejeta sa atmaha. Srimad Bhagavatam in the 11th canto speaks about it, how the human body is such a wonderful boat and Guru is the captain, and the eagerness of the disciple to hear the words of the spiritual master as absolute truth, to make his life based on the words of the instructions of the spiritual master, is the fuel which drives the boat of human form of life towards its real destination, that is spiritual world. And we see here how Parikshit Maharaj is extremely eager and enthusiastic to receive the words of the Sukadeva Goswami. So in our personal life, If we really want to advance, this Sravanam is very, very important. We can just hear casually, oh, we can just say, okay, theek hai, I have to hear this. What can be done? If I don't hear it, then my Guru will be upset with me. Sometimes we think that my Guru may become upset if I do not hear the class. We should understand we are not hearing the class for giving a favor to the spiritual master. Parikshit Maharaj was not thinking that he is favoring Sukadev Goswami by hearing. Parikshit Maharaj was understanding that Sukadev Goswami is favoring him by speaking. And based on how I am attentive, I am going to get benefit of what Sukadev Goswami is speaking. We are not favoring the spiritual master. We are being favored by the Guru Parampara. Otherwise, there is no hope in our life. There is no hope for the conditioned soul. Anadi karma phale. There is a word that is used in scriptures to explain the living entity as anadi karma phale. Anadi means adi, ana adi. Adi means there is no beginning, no end of the material life, the karma phal of the living entity. The only hope is how somehow or other, fortunately, the living entity seeks shelter of the words of the spiritual master and is ready to follow. And in order for all of us to accept the words of the spiritual master with absorption, we need to understand that the spiritual master is not an ordinary person. He is empowered by Paramatma. He is empowered by Krishna. Guru Sunaramati, as we will describe about the Anartha Nivriti. One of the Anarthas, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains that has to be given up is to think that my Guru is an ordinary person. Guru Sunaramati. This is one of the aparat, to consider the spiritual master as an ordinary person. Guru is an empowered representative of Paramatma. And more we consider this, we are fully convinced of this, more and more we can actually reap the benefit of the association of the spiritual master. Otherwise, the general tendency is familiarity breeds contempt. We become very, very familiar. Oh, I know everything. I know what my spiritual master is going to speak. Day before yesterday, I was hearing one class and the entire class was on the pastime of Vritrasur, which I spoke elaborately for almost 3 months. But when I was hearing, I was thinking that I have never heard this story, Vritrasur. I was thinking, I think for the first time I'm hearing this story of Vritrasur. Maybe for many, many times I have heard it, I have read it, I have spoken about it elaborately. But we must understand, no matter how much ever we hear these stories, we should have the eagerness and enthusiasm that I don't know anything about this story. I don't know an iota of Bhagavad Gita. I don't know an iota of Vritrasura and Chitraketu. Let me hear it more attentively this time. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he was in Tota Gopinath along with Gadadhar Pandit, every day they would hear only the two pastimes, Prahlad Maharaj and Dhruva Maharaj. Hundreds and hundreds of times they would hear the same story of Prahlad and Dhruva, and Lord Chaitanya, after hearing the entire Prahlad Charitra, he would speak to Gadadhar, "Oh Gadadhar, I am not able to understand how glorious is Prahlad. Speak it again, speak it again. I am going to hear it again. I want to understand how glorious is Prahlad." Hundreds and hundreds of times. And this is very, very important. Yesterday, I was hearing one class by His Holiness Radha Govind Swami Maharaj, and it was on Krishna's pastimes. And at the end, one lady, one Mataji, was asking, "Maharaj, you please tell me, whenever Krishna comes, does Krishna performs the same type of pastimes?" Maharaj said, "Yes. Most of the pastimes are similar in nature. Some of the demons are different. Like when Krishna performs pastimes, or Krishna now is performing pastime, it's not necessary that Putana is going to come or Trinavrata is going to come, but some demons are going to come. But most of the other pastimes, like dancing, like Rasa Leela, like Gocharan Leela, Bana Pravesh Leela, is the same. Every day Krishna would do the Bana Pravesh Leela. And if we have the mentality from now on that I know what is Bana Pravesh Leela, I have heard from my spiritual master at length every day, so many times, the Bana Pravesh Leela. So when Krishna is going Bana Pravesh every day, we're thinking, "Oh no, Krishna, do something else. Every day, why do you enter forest? You today enter the New York City, and let's see what fun happens." Every day Krishna would return back. Every day the gopis would come out of the house and see Krishna. And this is Nitya Leela. We must understand this tendency to find out everything new and thinking that when there is something new and new, then only I'll be happy, is the tendency of the unconditioned, uncontrolled, contaminated mind. Srila Prabhupada gives one class, I remember, I had heard it many years before, and Srila Prabhupada says, this mind is such a horrible thing. It simply always says, "Etto nuton kichu kor ar." Srila Prabhupada used to say in Bengali, do something new always. Ekto nuton kichu kor. And that's how the mind always cheats us. That, oh, so many years I have been hearing and chanting the same mantra, Hare Krishna. I have been hearing the same story. My Gurudev is telling the same thing always. But we must understand, we are planning to go to Vrindavan Dham. Every moment Krishna performs the same pastimes. Krishna would enter the forest. In the forest, Krishna would graze the cows. While grazing the cows, Krishna would just rest. And after resting and bringing the cows back, Krishna would count the cows. And when Krishna would count the cows would be thinking, "Oh, Krishna is just counting me." And then the gopis would see the cows and Krishna returning back. And then Krishna would eat some prasadam. And then Krishna would in the night dance with the gopis in Ras Leela. And again tomorrow, next day morning, Krishna is doing the same pastime. When we get bored, we want to go for a vacation. And Udit Prabhu was recently telling there is something called staycation. People are so bored about vacation that of going out to some other place in vacation. Now they stay in the same city and get out of their house and go to some hotel in the same city and stay. and which is called staycation. I don't know what it is, how they what they understand about it. So, but this is how the contaminated mind is. And we will also think of doing something called staycation or vacation from Vrindavan. Actually, we have all come in a vacation from Vrindavan Dham to material world. Because of this tendency, this mentality, we have come for a vacation to the material world. And we have to give up this tendency of hearing something new every day from the spiritual master. We should understand whatever the spiritual master is speaking, this is for my benefit. Even if I have heard it hundreds and millions of times, if I am simply enthusiastic in hearing it again and again, I will actually please Krishna. Krishna will manifest in my life. So this is an extremely serious thing, because our attentiveness in kirtan, our attentiveness in chanting the holy names will depend on our attentiveness on how sincerely we are hearing from the spiritual master and how attentively we are trying to apply them in our life. And how much with enthusiasm we are ready to report back. Because it is all because of the blessings of the spiritual master which pours out from the heart. We can actually advance. And when we are eager to hear from the spiritual master, you see how Suta Goswami is explaining here in the sloka that we are seeing, that adritam, respectful, alpam arthavam, nibhritena chetasa, with great pleasure. What gave Sukadev Goswami pleasure? Giving pleasure to spiritual master is not giving some donations to the spiritual master. Parikshit Maharaj didn't give some donations to Sukadev Goswami. Oh, Sukadev Goswami, take it, use it for the preaching of Krishna consciousness. Parikshit Maharaj didn't give some wonderful estate to Sukadev Goswami. Parikshit Maharaj didn't give Sukadev Goswami some wonderful, wonderful followers. He didn't do anything of it. Parikshit Maharaj simply was eager and attentive in hearing what Sukadev Goswami spoke, and he was so enthusiastic to inquire. And that made Sukadev Goswami nivritena chetasa. He was extremely happy with Parikshit. And when the spiritual master is happy from the core of his heart, Paramatma is happy, and Paramatma in our heart is happy, and we get the strength to practice our spiritual life nicely. So the disciple, by his eagerness, makes the spiritual master happy. And when the spiritual master is happy with our endeavors, Paramatma directs us how to go back to spiritual world. So Parikshit, with his attentiveness, made Sukadev Goswami so happy. He actually inspired from within Sukadev Goswami all the blessings, all the good wishes. We should understand spiritual master and scriptures are personalities. They are not robots. They are not objects. Like sometimes we go to someone's place or home. But the way we interact with a person will depend on how the person is going to reveal his inner core of his heart, based on how we give trust to the person. I can go to someone's house, I can go to Vijay Prabhu's house, but based on how I deal with Vijay Prabhu will give him trust to open up his heart. Because Vijay is a person and I am a person. Exactly in the same way, the scriptures are a person. Guru is a person. Based on our surrender, based on how we deal with how much of respect, of how much we are sincere in following him, will give him the trust to reveal the inner things about spiritual life. The Paramatma is seated in our heart. Paramatma is seated in the Guru's heart, and he makes the connection and he gives the direction of how we can go ahead in our spiritual life. So we see this first lesson that we are learning, how Parikshit is so eager. Sukadev Goswami is skipping ahead, but Parikshit is ensuring, no, you speak it elaborately. I want to hear what happened. And then Sukadev Goswami is beginning his discussion. Sukadev Goswami begins his discussion how Diti is extremely frustrated, angry. Why is angry? Because her two sons, Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha, is brutally killed by Vishnu. But Diti is not against Vishnu. Diti considers Vishnu is fine. But it's Indra who is the problem. It's the Indra who instigated Vishnu to kill my sons. This Indra is the most cruel person. This Indra is the most nefarious person. This Indra is simply attached to sense gratification. You see my two sons, Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha, they were so nice. Hare Krishna. This can be material attachment. In front of her own eyes, Diti saw how Hiranyakashipu, her son, gave so much of torture to all the demigods. Forget about all the demigods. Diti witnessed how Hiranyakashipu, her son, tortured her grandson, Prahlad. Yes? It's not that Diti was in a vacation, was not knowing how Prahlad was getting tortured by Hiranyakashipu. And then when Diti comes back, oh, Hiranyakashipu got killed, my son got killed. Diti witnessed everything. She witnessed how Hiranyakashipu was atrocious to the demigods. She witnessed how Hiranyakashipu was atrocious to the Brahmanas, how Hiranyakashipu killed the cows, how Hiranyakashipu tortured Prahlad for no reason. But such blind attachment. Diti considered that Indra was wrong. Indra was cruel. Indra was hard-hearted. And Hiranyakashipu was the greatest of the soul that the world has seen ever. Hare Krishna. This is Diti mentality, which is also seen in Dhritarashtra mentality. Weakness of heart. Diti was so attached that she could not see the faults of Hiranyakashipu. This is false ego, which restricts us to see our faults. The Brahma created this world, but this world is designed by our individual false ego. Please hear it attentively. Though Brahma has created this world, But this world is designed, it's curated based on individual false ego. Everyone sees the world differently. Sometimes Brahma is amazed how everyone is seeing the world differently. Because we are all seeing the world from the filters of our false ego mind and intelligence. And based on the filters that we have, our world is different from others. And the nature of false ego is to actually defend that what I am seeing is correct. Like the scientist. You go to the scientist and you say to them that there are higher personalities. In the moon planet, there are higher personalities. In the Mars planet, there are higher personalities. Scientists will say, rubbish. You are speaking rubbish. We just went to the moon and we got the dust from the moon. Just see, this is the dust. And the moon is simply filled with dust. Hare Krishna. We can simply imagine what the moon god would be thinking when the scientists in NASA are claiming that it is vacant. Hare Krishna. The moon god would be thinking, yes, I made it vacant for you so that you don't trouble me and my followers here in the moon planet. Hare Krishna. So that you go back with happiness and satisfaction with some dust. And be very happy, be very satisfied. The scientists are happy. They're doing a great thing. They are claiming and again saying, oh, we have seen the moon, we have seen the moon, we have seen the moon. Just imagine. Actually, no one has seen the moon. What we see as moon is not the moon. What we see as sun is not the sun. I'm writing the next book, and in that book I wanted to write something about atom bomb and nuclear bombs. So I was doing a little bit of research about atom bombs. And while describing the power of the atom bomb and then describing the power of the nuclear bomb, the scientists, they say that the nuclear fission and fusion is what the sun is made of. The sun is burning because of the nuclear fission and fusion. And I was simply laughing to hear that statement. I was thinking, which father of which scientist initiated that fission in sun? The fusion in sun, the chain reaction in the sun. They can't even go beyond some 100 and 200 kilometers. And they're speculating like a frog in the well about the sun. But they're convinced. You go to a scientist and say to him, no. Sun is actually it's a chariot. Chariot? What nonsense. No, it's a chariot that is moving on the Manasatara mountain. Manasatara mountain? What nonsense. What's a chariot? How can a chariot move? And how can a burning chariot move? It's useless. No. The sun god is moving, and there is Surya Narayan who is entertaining the sun god, and there is constantly the sun is moving. Nonsense. The earth is moving. It's like that. And they're convinced. You can't do anything about it. They are simply convinced. So that is why, if we want to get rid of false ego, we have to set our intelligence in front of Guru and the spiritual master and the scriptures. If the scriptures are telling that the sun is moving over the Manasatara mountain, I put my Dandavat. Yes, it is moving on the Manasatra mountain. I have no power to understand anything. If the scriptures are telling that the earth is stationary and the sun is moving around, yes, I do not have any faith, I do not have any understanding. Yes, this is true. So this faith on the scriptures will help us to get rid of false ego, which is created to create an illusion. The scriptures are the means. The faith in the words of the scriptures, the faith in the word of the spiritual master are the means to get out of the illusion of the false ego. There is no other way. There was one Purushottam who was Srila Prabhupada's disciple. It's a famous story, funny story. So when Prabhupada was in US, there was this moon landing. You all know this famous moon landing. And Srila Prabhupada just said casually, they cannot land on moon. They cannot go to moon. And because it's not possible to go to moon without having the necessary qualification. And even if they go to moon, they cannot access moon because it's a heavenly planet. It's not possible. It is Ravana mentality. Ravana also tried to put a staircase to heaven. That is useless. So all the disciples, they were, yes. Srila Prabhupada is telling, yes. No one can go to moon. And there was one Purushottam. He said, what, this Swami from India who has never read science, who has never read physics, what nonsense he is speaking. Just see the American scientists, they are going to moon. And he was really feeling he is American. And as the scientist Neil Armstrong was putting, and I guess the word right, Neil Armstrong, he was putting the flag on, oh, we have got a giant step of mankind and all these things. With his American feeling and fever, he started offending Srila Prabhupada. In his mind, in the beginning, and he started speaking to everyone. Actually, Srila Prabhupada doesn't know anything. He doesn't know science. He doesn't know physics. He doesn't know chemistry. He doesn't know all these things. They have gone to the moon. This Swamiji is useless. And Srila Prabhupada was not telling anything. One day, there was some little bit of fire in the kitchen, and the entire kitchen got little burnt, and there was black fumes. And then Purushottam and one Mataji or someone came out of the kitchen, and Srila Prabhupada came running. What happened? And he saw Purushottam and some devotees with black fume coming out. And Srila Prabhupada just joked, I think you are coming back from the moon. And this Purushottam, because he was feeling already very disturbed that how come Srila Prabhupada is not accepting? Why the Shastras are not accepting? We have gone to moon. Americans have gone to moon, and this Bhagavatam is telling no one can go to moon. This Srila Prabhupada is telling no one can go to moon. This is useless. And he left ISKCON, he left Krishna consciousness, he left Srila Prabhupada. And later on, there are so many theories and all those things you can search in internet, and it was found that they didn't go to the moon. Hare Krishna. There's so many theories and all those things, and so many scientists getting killed because of that. And it was found that it was simply simulated in the Arizona desert. Hare Krishna. They didn't go to the moon. And there are so many conspiracy theories and all those things, because the technology that is required to go to moon, that was not developed. In 2022, they again wanted to go to moon. And they have started again the campaign of going to moon. But anyway, we understand based on Srimad Bhagavatam that we cannot go to moon. So this faith on the scriptures That Srimad Bhagavatam is speaking. The scriptures are speaking. The Guru Parampara is speaking. There is no doubt about it. This faith can help us, lift us above our false ego. Otherwise, we are so conditioned to see the world around through the eyes of our false ego. There is no other way to come above the false ego. We can be convinced like Diti, that Hiranyakashipu. If Diti can be convinced, just imagine, we are speaking about the scientists. Think about Diti. If Diti can be convinced that Hiranyakashipu was great and Indra is having problem, why we are thinking about the scientists? The scientists are just tiny puny fellows in front of the false ego that Diti is having, or being showcased in the pages of Srimad Bhagavatam. It's just in front of our eyes how treacherous was Hiranyakashipu. But she missed it out. So in this way, it is important that we hear from the spiritual master, we hear and read the scriptures with faith, understanding that my false ego is the barrier to understand it. And I have to keep my false ego, my intelligence, my mind separate when I'm dealing with the spiritual master. When I'm dealing with spiritual master, I must shut off my intelligence. I must shut off my mind. I must shut off my false ego. That's the only way to get out of this illusion of material world. There is no other way. The illusion is so strong. The illusion is so strong that there is no other way. Just shutting off and surrendering. Tadvithi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshanti te jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshina. So the scriptures and the gurus are telling us the truth. And sometimes our false ego may get convinced with the truth, and sometimes our false ego may not get convinced with the truth. But whatever it is, we need to accept it as absolute truth. So Diti, because of her false ego, thought Indra as the most cruel person, as the cause of all the problems, and devised a wonderful plan, which we are going to see next week, of how Diti devised such a beautiful plan to come out of her situation. Hare Krishna. So please come next week to see what is the most wonderful plan that Diti designed. Just imagine what's a beautiful plan. We will see elaborately. And next class is very, very important about especially many of the important lessons are given by our acharyas in this section. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Are there any questions? Okay, Sabyasachi Prabhu has one question. Udit Prabhu has another question. Then Kushal Bihari Prabhu, yes.
Thanks, Prabhu. It was a very nice discussion on Diti's Kashyap on his context here in Bhagavatam. We told about Aditi's son, those are Adityas. And in Bhagavad Gita, verse 10.21, Krishna is talking about Adityanam Vishnu Jyoti Raviram Shaman. That means he is saying Adityas and the Vishnu. And you talked about Diti's 50 sons, those who have become demigod, and these are marutas. And then that verse also, Krishna talks about I am the Marutas among all the Marutas and the Marichis. So, is it a symbolic representation or it is a really Vishnu is the son of Aditi here? And second question, then I will talk about the second question after this. Everybody is done.
Yeah. So in Bhagavad Gita, in the Vibhuti section, Vibhuti Yoga, in the 10th chapter, Krishna elaborately speaks how he is among the demigods, he is Indra, among the destroyer, he is Rudra, among the wind, there he is Marutas. He speaks elaborately on that. So this 10th chapter is called Vibhuti Yoga because uh, the purpose of Krishna mentioning about uh, all these things is to tell to Arjuna, to all of us, that whatever greatness anyone has, whatever power anyone has, the power of Indra to rule over the demigods, the power of Rudra to annihilate at the end of creation, the power of Brihaspati to become the priest or the spiritual master of the demigods, the power of Sukracharya to play diplomatics so that the demons sometimes outplay the demigods. All the power comes ultimately from Krishna. So it's not Krishna is Indra or Aditya, it's the power of Adityas coming from Krishna. It's not that Krishna becomes Marut, but it's the power that whatever Maruts are able to do comes from Krishna. And that's how, in the end, Krishna makes it very clear that he is not the Marut, he is not Indra, but he gives the power to Indra, he gives the power to Marut, he gives power to Brihaspati. And that's why in the end of the 10th chapter, Krishna mentions this famous verse, Yad yad vibhuti mat sattvam Srimadurjitam eva tat tat eva gachatvam mama teja amsa sambhava. Yad yad vibhuti mat sattvam. Whatever vibhuti you see, whatever power you see, whatever beauty you see, O Arjuna, in whomever you see, all that comes from me alone. And not just from me, it comes as a spark of my splendor. So, whatever Indra is able to do is just a spark of the power that Krishna has given to him. So, it's mentioned in that way. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, so only thing is that the name Vishnu that is used there. So in that 12 Aditya, is there any other Vishnu or it is that same Vishnu talked about Bhagavatam and
Yeah,
Bhagavad Gita?
among the Adityas, one Aditya is definitely Vishnu, that is Upendra. So Upendra is the younger brother who is Vamanadev. So definitely one Aditya is definitely Vishnu, but in this context it is Vibhuti Yoga. Krishna is mentioning that all the powers of all the Adityas, one of the Aditya is Surya, one of the Aditya is Aryama, one of the Aditya is Twashta, and one of the Aditya is Indra. So different Adityas have different powers, and they have been given different responsibilities. So now to execute those responsibilities, they need some powers, and that power is given by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That's what exactly is mentioned. But also, one Aditya is Vishnu himself as Vamanadev. Among the 12 Adityas, one is Vamanadev, who is Upendra. And Vamanadev actually comes, I'm reading Brihad Bhagavatamrita, in that it is mentioned how Indra every day worships Vamanadev, who comes in his planet to take his offering as his younger brother. Like that. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna. Yes, Udit Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thanks for the class. Prabhu, my question is, you spoke about we need to be enthusiastic and eager to hear from our spiritual master. Prabhuji, but when we we become enthusiastic and eager when we derive a pleasure from something. Like whenever we are playing a game or seeing a movie, we derive some sort of pleasure, maybe a false pleasure. And Prabhuji, to hear more and more attentively and becoming more and more enthusiastic, how can we start deriving that pleasure from spiritual topics rather than to material topics? Because material topics always, try to divert us, and due to our false ego, believe that giving us pleasure. So, Prabhuji, if you can help to understand how we can increase our enthusiasm.
Yeah. So how to increase our enthusiasm? Because our enthusiasm generally comes from what gives us pleasure. So enthusiasm comes, the definition of enthusiasm that our acharyas have given, and Srila Prabhupada has mentioned it very nicely in Nectar of Instruction, Utsaha is endeavor with intelligence. So we are hearing, but if we are not endeavoring to apply them, we will not derive any pleasure. When we hear it and we endeavor to apply it, we will see change in our life. We will see transformations in our life. And those transformations will give us pleasure. That we'll be able to see that, yes, I am changing. I am becoming more attached to Krishna. So those transformations will first give us pleasure. The second thing is that we can develop enthusiasm in hearing, more eagerness, more enthusiastic in hearing by understanding the goal. If I need to reach to the goal of the spiritual world, this is the process. How I can be enthusiastic on the journey? When I understand the wonderful things that I am going to achieve in the destination. Yes. Like I was hearing yesterday, Krishna's pastime, just Kaliya Leela was starting, and Dhenuka Asur pastime I was hearing, and then Maharaj was telling about rotating Dhenuka Asur, and Maharaj is telling that Balram caught the two legs of Dhenukasur in one hand effortlessly. And Maharaj said, Ki this Dhenuka is coming and giving me legs, then why I should hold his head, why I should hold his horns, or whatever it is. Someone who is giving legs, I should be servant. I am in the mood of servant. I should hold the legs, and I should rotate and holding the legs. So in this way, as we hear more and more about Krishna's pastimes, it is important that we read Krishna book regularly. In order to go enthusiastic in our journey, we need to really hear Krishna's pastimes regularly, so that we understand the destination. Oh my goodness, if I hear regularly, if I practice Krishna consciousness, this is where I will go. This is the Nitya Leela I go. It's such a wonderful. That's why Krishna comes. So the first thing is about enthusiasm and eagerness we can develop is when we start applying them in our personal life. And the second thing is that we should be very clear about the destination. We should hear more about the destination. That gives us inspiration. We are so much hearing about the news of the material world, and that is why we are enthusiastic to endeavor in the material world. But we should be eager to hear about the news of the spiritual world. One very important thing that we all can do in our life is that we read Krishna book for 15-20 minutes and we sit down and meditate on what we just read. Actually, we don't meditate and introspect on what we hear from the spiritual master. And because we don't introspect, it doesn't give us pleasure. More and more you introspect, more and more you derive pleasure. Just like a cow, he ruminates. The cow ruminates. So Biswanath Chakravarti Thakur, one place says that the cow will take some grass and it will belch out and start ruminating. So today on Sunday you heard something, but for the next 6 days in a week, try ruminating, try introspecting on the same point from different angles. Try thinking, oh, where are other examples from the scriptures? If you see how we had designed the discussions in the reading groups, is like that. Try finding out other people. Oh, it's not just Parikshit who heard so eagerly from Sukdev Goswami. Prabhuji today in class spoke about Parikshit, spoke about Sabari, spoke about Srila Prabhupada. But who are all other personalities who heard nicely? So introspect. Who are all other personalities who didn't hear nicely? Introspect. Who are all other personalities who heard and neglected the advice? Introspect, like Dhritarashtra. Akrura went, so many people went, he heard so nicely, but no change. What all instructions I have got in my own personal life, which I have neglected? Let me find out. Let me make a list of it. So in this way, when we hear some things, we can derive hundreds and hundreds of things for introspection, which I generally do. And that gives me a lot of enthusiasm to hear more. Like yesterday, I was hearing one class and where Maharaj was speaking about faith. So I was thinking how faith is so essential. And Jayadvaita Swami Maharaj in the end of the lecture was speaking about faith is as interest. How our interest varies. And I was just thinking, yes, everyone has a different interest. So we hear something, but then we forget what next step we have to do. We hear and make some notes and then keep the notes as it is. And the notes will go back to Godhead. And we will stay here peacefully. And the Vishnu Dutas will come and then we will think, oh, Vishnu Dutas have come to take me. They'll say, where is your notes of the Sunday class? We are going to take it back to spiritual world. But these notes we are making, these lectures we are uploading in YouTube so that we can revise. Like one time, I was asked to give a class on the same sloka which I have already given to all of you. So I was thinking, oh, let me find out the notes and everything, what I have to speak, because I had very less time. So I switched on and searched my same lecture from YouTube and I played and started hearing my own class. And after the end of the class, I realized, did I give this class? I really give good class. And I'm happy that I hear it because I have forgotten everything. So in this way, we should understand that it's not that we just hear it and we complete it. We hear it again and again, we revise it, we introspect it, we see the notes again and again, we come back and think how I can apply. We apply and fail and report back to the spiritual master that I failed. You said to me to do this, but I could not do it. How do I do it nicely? So these, when we just keep it in hearing mode and then just make some notes or just hear it because I have to give my attendance, it's there, we will not feel the pleasure. But when we work on it, when we endeavor with intelligence, that's what is enthusiasm. When we apply our intelligence and endeavor to apply it in our life. When we think from different directions on what today I heard, like ladies who are all cooking, today you hear some class, and throughout the day you can, while cooking, meditate what was going on. So when we meditate on it, then we derive pleasure. Matchitta matgata prana bodhayanta paraspara. We also get enthusiasm by sharing with each other what instructions we have received from the spiritual master. This is the third principle. Bodhayanta paraspara tusyanti cha ramanti cha. Oh, this is what my spiritual master said to me, and this is how I applied it, and it helped me a lot. So this is the third way to derive enthusiasm. So to summarize, the first way to derive eagerness and enthusiasm is actually to apply it. And when we see the transformation, it gives us enthusiasm. Oh, it's changing it. And report back. And the second principle is to know the destination very clearly. What I'm going to achieve when, with the process of hearing, I'm going to achieve entrance into the Nitya Leela. And the third principle is sharing with others the instructions and the words that what we heard. I remember when in our voice days, when I used to stay, we would hear one lecture, and during the prasadam, we would just sit together and just discuss on the lecture what we heard. And that gives so much of happiness. Others would speak a different perspective of what they heard. Someone will speak, oh, they heard. Because everyone is speaking based on what they're practicing. Everyone is hearing from the spiritual master. One can hear the same class, but one can get different understanding based on his enthusiasm, his level of practice. So by sharing with others also, we get more enthusiasm to hear more. We hear something and we share. We talk with Kushal Bihari Prabhu. And he said, oh, did you like this point that was made? And then you realize, oh, I missed that point. I never heard it. I was somewhere else. So in this way, we derive also enthusiasm. So these are the three ways which I generally apply in my life. And you also can try. Hare Krishna. Yes. Kushal Bihari Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Bol.
Thank you so much. Actually, my question may be little irrelevant to today's discussion.
Yes.
But since I read it, it was in my mind. So just I thought to ask. Now we are reading the Swayambhu Manu's the description during the day of Swayambhu Manu.
Hmm.
So in the 9th canto, it is the current Manu, Shraddhadev Manu. There Surya dynasty and Chandra dynasty, all these dynasties are mentioned. So in those, Sukadev Goswami mentions the future kings who are going to come in that dynasty. So I was thinking, how is it that he is able to tell even the future kings who are going to come? So is it so fixed that even the names of the future kings are already determined, already that these people only will take birth?
Oh, you are an astrologer. This is not a fitting question to be asked by an astrologer himself. So everything is fixed so long we actually do not practice Krishna consciousness. The living entity almost is prakrite kriyamanani gune karmani sarvasa ahankara vimudhatma kartaham iti manyate. The material energy does everything. And as things progress ahead more and more, the living entity actually will lose his free will. More living entity becomes sinful, he loses the free will. He's just a puppet. So the free will of the living entity is almost obscured and eclipsed by his tendency to misuse and exploit, and that's how it is being curtailed by the material energy. And that's how we can see that the astrologers and even Sukadeva Goswami, they can predict this is going to happen. But these predictions can change by intervention of Krishna's devotees and intervention of Krishna. Otherwise, there's all what to speak of. Like we see how come Bhrugu can predict that entire things, how there can be Agastya Nadi who can predict. Yes, those predictions can come true and it will happen definitely because the karmas are acting. These personalities have the karmas and these personalities are going to get their bodies based on the karmas. But if they exercise their free will to become devotees of Krishna, then their karmana nirdahati kintucha bhakti bhaja. So these are all tales of karmic reactions which are going to come. But these can be stopped only by intervention of Krishna and his devotees and intervention of practice of spirituality. Right? So similarly, we also have a karma and we have a karmic destination. So our karmic destination is fixed. Not just for one life, almost for many, many lives, our karmic destination is already fixed. Don't think our karmic destination is fixed for one life. Our karmic destination is fixed for so many lives. What we are doing now, we may have to experience after many lives the karma. If today I killed someone, I may be hanged by the government, I may be jailed by the government, but the actual reaction may come much later, until unless I do really so many screwed up, so many things that I have to go to Yamraj, this life itself. That's a different story. But you become a criminal. But so long you are a citizen of the material universe, your karmic reactions are fixed. Your free will is choked. But still some free will is remaining so that the living entity can freely decide to again come back to senses, follow the directions of the scriptures, follow a Sadguru. Then the destiny gets changed. That's why for devotees and those who are very serious, sincere devotees, the astrology doesn't work. So in that way, Sukadeva Goswami is able to predict. Okay, Hare Krishna, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, and Ankit Prabhu, sorry, and 2 more questions are there.
Hare Krishna, thank you so much for the wonderful class. Actually, I have a very small question, only not so big also. Actually, the first question is that you mentioned that and the statement that we can derive benefit from the association of our spiritual master by eagerness and enthusiasm. So, are there some shloka or reference from Shastras where we can find these statements? That would be very nice.
Slokas for?
For a reference for this point that we can derive benefit from the association of our spiritual master by our eagerness and enthusiasm. Means the eagerness and enthusiasm part.
Yeah. So there is Bruhi Snigdhasya Sisyasya Gurovo Guhyam Akhyata. So this comes in the first canto. I will just find out the verse. Bruhi Snigdhasya Sisyasya Dhasya Sisyasya. This is the first canto. I don't remember where it is, but it says that Bruhi Snigdhasya Sisyasya. I'll just give me 1 minute, I'll just find it out. Bruhi Snigdhasya. So in that verse it is said about how if a disciple is Snigdhasya, Snigdha means he is very, what you say, snigdha. The word snigdha is, how do I describe snigdha in a very way that you can understand? No. Snigdha literally in Sanskrit means chak chak. Yeah, it is like silky hair, So, like when something is silky and so silky hair, like you catch a silky hair of a lady who has done taken a shampoo bath, wow, so nice, and your hand will just catch, and then the hairs will go automatically ahead. Okay, huh? Correct? I don't know whether you have caught hold of some hairs of some silky. My elder sister had silky hair, so when I would catch it, and then after sometimes you would take full bath and all, when I would catch it, and just go away. And then so this is about silky hair. So snigdhasya means that the disciple, the spiritual master. Would speak something and the disciple will be completely malleable. Oh, so this is meaning of snigdhasya. So when the disciple is completely malleable in the hands of the spiritual master, that is meaning of snigdhasya. Also, snigdhasya word comes in a section in the 16th chapter. Again, when Parikshit Maharaj hears how Pandavas were snigdhasya to Krishna. They were so malleable to Krishna's instructions that Krishna did everything for them. Krishna became their servant, Krishna became this and that. Why? Because they were themselves surrendered to Krishna. So, bruhi snigdhasya sisyasya guruvo guhyamakhyata. And just let me find out the verse, sorry. It's in Srimad Bhagavatam, it is in first canto. Bruhi, yeah, it has come. Bruhi snigdhasya sisyasya snigdhasya sisyasya, yes, bruhi snigdhasya 118. So can anyone, let me share. How do I share? This is how I share. Bettatvam saumya tat sarvam tattvatas tadanugrahat bruyu snigdhasya sisyasya guruvo guhyam apyuta. Bruyu snigdhasya sisyasya. And because you are submissive, your spiritual masters have endowed you with all the favors bestowed upon a gentle disciple. Therefore, you can tell us all that you have scientifically learned from them. This is Saunaka Rishi glorifying Suta Goswami. He is telling that, oh Suta Goswami, you heard from Sukadev Goswami, but because you heard with submissiveness, and that is why you can tell us exactly what Sukadev Goswami meant, and he spoke. The secret of success in spiritual life is in satisfying the spiritual master and thereby getting his sincere blessings. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has sung in his famous 8 stanzas on spiritual master as follows: I offer my respectful obeisances under the lotus feet of my spiritual master. Only by his satisfaction can one please the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And when he is dissatisfied, there is only havoc on the spiritual path. It is essential, therefore, that a disciple be very much obedient and submissive to the bona fide spiritual master. Srila Suta Goswami fulfilled all these qualifications as a disciple, and therefore he was endowed with all the favors by his learned and self-realized spiritual master. Srila Vyasdeva and others, the sages of Naimisharanya, were eager to hear from Suta Goswami. He was bona fide, therefore they were anxious to hear from them. So this is 118. That is the reference. Okay. There are other references, but this is the most prominent reference. That's why I spoke. There are other references in 10th canto also, where Parikshit Maharaj is speaking to Sukadeva Goswami that if you, O Brahmana, you are pleased, if the spiritual master is pleased, what else more can be and what not can be achieved, and all those things are there. But this is a very, very prominent reference.
Okay, Ruji, and just one thing that you mean that our tendency to find something new, that is a contamination. Actually, because of my whatever, I have found this other extreme that yeah, we hear from Shastra, we hear from spiritual masters sometimes that even one book or one shloka, if we actually implement in our life, then we will attain perfection. Like that. So sometimes our tendency of our mind is to think that, okay, one lecture if I hear very nicely, so and one book if I finish, then I need not to hear and read other sources. Like only sticking to one book, maybe Bhagavad Gita or maybe one Srila Prabhupada book. But in my personal experience, I have what I understood and what I found is that when we hear from like gradually, systematically, like one scripture and then another scripture, so we get a holistic understanding of the process. So is it means like, so how to differentiate if it's I'm going towards like searching everything new, or I should follow systematically? Like how should we go about it?
Our acharyas have kept it very simple. Srimad Bhagavatam is our only book, and whatever our acharyas have written is all based on the quotations from Srimad Bhagavatam. We see that Biswanath Chakravarti Thakur has written about Madhurya Kadambini, but the reference of what he is speaking is Srimad Bhagavatam. So if we just stick to one book, Srimad Bhagavatam, that's enough. We do not have to think about thinking and reading and anything new or something. We need to read Srimad Bhagavatam again and again, from cover to cover. We can read all the pastimes of Srimad Bhagavatam again and again and again, and we read it again and again and cover to cover. So we do not have to think of reading so many things or new or something, and we should not also think that one sloka is enough. Srimad Bhagavatam has 18,000 slokas, and we focus on these 18,000 slokas. We can pick up different sections of Srimad Bhagavatam and read them, read the purports of Srila Prabhupada very attentively, make underline. If we are not able to understand, speak to some devotees who can make us understand about what is being spoken. So in this way, we do not have to worry about reading so many new things, or we do not have to also worry that I will just read one sloka and it's enough. Our acharyas have kept it very simple. Srimad Bhagavatam is pramanam amalam, prema pumartho mahan. It is puranam amalam, it is amal puran, and it is pramanam amalam. It is also purest of all the proofs. And prema pumartho mahan. It is designed to awaken our love for Krishna. So if we just focus on Srimad Bhagavatam, that's sufficient. Nothing else is required. Nothing else. If we just get married to Bhagavatam, nothing else is required. So all other scriptures and literatures written by even our acharyas are ultimately designed around Srimad Bhagavatam to help us develop more faith on Srimad Bhagavatam. Nothing else is required. Srimad Bhagavatam is sufficient for us to take us back home, back to Godhead. Whatever is mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam is sufficient. We do not have to read any other scriptures. But yes, to derive different benefits, to get more faith on Srimad Bhagavatam, it's important. Like now I am reading Brihat Bhagavatamrita. What is Brihat Bhagavatamrita? It is when Parikshit heard Srimad Bhagavatam from Sukadeva Goswami, then Uttara, before Parikshit is going to go back and the Takshak is going to come and attack, Uttara, mother of Parikshit, comes running and says, "What did you hear? What did you hear?" Because ladies were not there. Uttara is extremely eager, and Parikshit speaks in nutshell Brihat Bhagatamrita to Uttara. So, so in this way, ultimately everything is based on Bhagavatam. So if we just focus on it, it's sufficient. Hare Krishna. Yes, Sabyasachi Prabhu's last question. Then we'll end.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, you talked about just 2 days we discussed that Diti was very angry on Indra, not only Vishnu for this killing of Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu. So, you have seen, we have discussed also in this opulence Vibhuti Yoga, Indra is also a representation of Krishna. And if you say the 6th chapter, Bhagavatam, Indra offends his spiritual master Brihaspati, and he condemns him in 2 verses, 6.7, 1.1 and 1.2. And Indra is saying that Bhagavatamaya Shadu Putra Veda Buddhina Janma Asharamatana Guru Sarsigrasta. That one verse he is saying, I am Dabra Buddhina and Yam Mayasharjamattena. That from because I am less intelligent and because of Aishwarya, I have defended my Guru Sadaskila. And second verse is saying that Prabhude Pandita Lakshmi Tripista Papaterapi Aham Ashuram Bhava Nitide Vudashara. He is also saying that any Pandita they should not ask for Lakshmi because that opulence can create Asura Bhava. So if you understand it correctly, though Indra is the king of demigods, is he coming under the false ego of having Aishwarya Mattena and less intelligence, or is it a lila of Krishna indirectly for for devotees to make them aware, if you do like this, that will happen? Because you have seen in many of the cases, Indra creates problem if somebody is doing Jagya, Dana, Tapa, Karma, both to rishis like Vishwamitra or maybe Danavas.
So so the question is, when Indra is doing all these things, committing mistakes and all, so is Indra doing it as a leela, or Indra is just doing it? So Indra is just doing it. It's not leela. Krishna makes it leela. So that's the beauty of Krishna, that he can make everything leela. He can make our life also his leela. But if we think that I am doing leela, then it is dangerous. So Indra is not doing leela. He actually committed mistake. These demigods, though they are in mode of goodness, but they also have attachments to material enjoyment. And because of the attachment to material enjoyment, they are also under the false ego. Their false ego may be of gold variety, and the demon's false ego may be of iron variety, but they also have a false ego. They commit mistakes. But the beauty of Krishna is that Krishna, when the demigods are committing mistakes and all, Krishna chastises them, scolds them, like Krishna chastised Brahma to why he gave benediction to Hiranyakashipu. Krishna chastised Indra when he attacked the Brajavasis. So the demigods actually commit mistakes. But Krishna, when he intervenes, whether it is a mistake of a demigod, whether it is a mistake of a demon, Krishna makes it all auspicious. That's how Krishna is. That's the speciality of Krishna. That's why he is called Urukrama. One of the name of Krishna is Urukrama. Wonderful acts. The demigods are committing mistake, but Krishna intervenes and makes that mistake auspicious. But that doesn't mean that we get a license to commit mistake. But that simply means that how glorious is Krishna. If Indra takes a lesson in this, that, oh, just see, because of my mistake, such wonderful things happen, Krishna came and Krishna incarnated this and that, that is foolishness of Indra. But Indra thinks in Brihad Bhagavatamrita, Narad Muni, when he is glorifying Indra, Indra is actually condemning himself. Indra is thinking how many times I commit mistake, but it's all Krishna's mercy that he is again and again forgiven me and made everything so auspicious. So these demigods, they do commit mistakes out of false ego, because false ego is a software, and different living entities on the different lokas have different access to the software. Even Brahma is also having false ego, but the access of the false ego of Brahma is with Vishnu. So then Brahma creates a false ego software and installs it on the demigods. So the demigods cannot do anything with that. They're just installed false ego software. So Brahma is able to interact with the false ego software installed on the demigod's laptop. But the demigods can't do anything. Similarly, Brahma also has a false ego installed in his system, which he cannot do anything. Only Vishnu can do about it. Similarly, the demigods, they work and they create some installations on the living entities of false ego, of contaminations and all. So everyone has got different powers, but everyone has got false ego. So even Brahma has also got false ego. And definitely our Brahma, because he heard the Chatusloki Srimad Bhagavatam, after he had heard Chatusloki Srimad Bhagavatam, he became a pure devotee, and our Brahma came as also Haridas Thakur. So, but Brahma was not like this. Day before, on Thursday, I was reading how Brahma got even attracted to his own daughter, and Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur mentions that this story of Brahma getting attracted to his own daughter in a physical manner, in a sexual manner, occurred in a different day of Brahma before he had heard Srimad Bhagavatam. But after Brahma heard Srimad Bhagavatam, he became a pure devotee, and now our Brahma is a pure devotee. So this is mentioned by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. So they are also in their journey to spiritual world. Just like we are in our journey to spiritual world, they are also in their journey. But if we cannot offend them, but we can only follow them when they are in proper consciousness. We can follow those directions and injunctions and instructions of Brahma, Indra, which are in line with Srimad Bhagavatam. And sometimes when they get distracted, then Krishna, who has installed them as different directors of this universe, it's Krishna's job to correct them. We can simply always respect them, but they are also affected by false ego. And they also get purified. They are also in their journey to spiritual world, just like us. Only thing is that they have got more powers, material powers than us. Otherwise, they are also living entities. They are on their journey of spiritual journey. We are in our spiritual journey. Otherwise, there is no difference. Yes.
Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna. Chandan Prabhu.
Thank you for a wonderful class and the question. I was asking, wanted some more points from you on that. You mentioned that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu example that you had, Prahlad Maharaj and Dhruv Maharaj passed on repeatedly. So can you little bit tell us more that like why he selected those two persons especially and what attracted, or like we can also learn something how to approach the past tense that.
So two things are very essential for a sadhaka. The first is determination, and the second one is simplicity of faith. So Dhruva Maharaj, Dhruva Charita speaks about determination, which is important for a sadhaka. He has to be determined in his path towards spiritual world. And the second about Prahlad Maharaj is his simple faith on Krishna, innocent faith on Krishna. That is very, very essential for sadhaka, because a sadhaka in his preliminary stage cannot actually perceive many of the spiritual subject matters. So he need to have that innocent faith that my Guru has said, like Prahlad had innocent faith. Narad Muni has said that Krishna is everywhere, Krishna is everywhere. Narad Muni has said that Krishna will protect me, Krishna will protect me. So simplicity in one's faith, in accepting the words of Guru and Sadhu and script Shastras, and determination of Dhruva. These are the two essential qualifications required for a sadhaka to go to spiritual world, and that's why Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in order to instruct to become right sadhakas, he used to hear these two pastimes with great interest and pleasure. And when we take these pastimes, when we take Dhruva Charita, we will first take the Daksha Upakhyan, and then in that fourth canto we will continue. Then Dhruva Maharaj will come and all those. So we will start fourth canto after the sixth canto gets over. So sixth canto will get over in next 3-4 months, and then we will start fourth canto, Dhruva Charita. And then we will go to seventh canto. So that time we will discuss more elaborately on Dhruva Maharaj. Hare Krishna. Yes, Ankit Prabhu, you have asked some question.
Yes, Prabhuji. Actually, this question is in continuation with Prabhuji's question regarding the destiny. Means my question is practicing Krishna consciousness with an intent to change our destination okay? Means
your sorry, say it again.
Practicing Krishna consciousness with a desire to change our destination also in the material world, and also it's like ultimately in the spiritual world, but and also like material, like this want to change, like okay, I know that I'm a very simple person and like this, so means I know that maybe in future we'll have more simple reactions. So just like practicing Krishna consciousness with the desire that maybe in future we may not have this many unacceptable reactions we get rid of. That is an okay, or we should only focus on.
That's perfectly okay. That's pure devotional service. If we want to change our destiny from being demoniac to becoming a resident of spiritual world and serving the devotees in the spiritual realm, so that's a perfectly right desire to enter the spiritual realm, to serve the Vaishnavas and not stay. So that's a perfectly. But if we want to change the destiny and in the material world, it's a wrong desire. We want to change our destiny and look for the spiritual world, then it's right desire. Okay, Hare Krishna, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. All the destiny is all predetermined. Now the winter is there, so cold, and then summer will come, and the summer ends, the rainy will come, and the rainy ends, the winter will come again. This is destiny of the living entity. So it's how it is destined, right? And in the winter, sometimes we are wearing a blue jacket and sometimes we are wearing a black jacket. How does it matter? What is the winter? So similarly, the destiny of the living entity is just to, in illusion, enjoy the sense gratification. And sometimes the living entity enjoys the sense gratification of eating, sleeping, mating, defending in the body of a human being. And sometimes he does it in the body of a cat, in the dog, in the horse, in a donkey. This is the destiny. Ahar, Nidra, Bhaya and Maithun. It's the same thing. The Demigods, Indra, they're doing the same thing. Brahma is doing the same thing. A Brahma Bhuvana Loka Punaravartino Arjuna. Starting from Brahma to the ant, they're just doing the same thing. They're destined to do the same thing. Colors are different. Narendra Modi is eating in a different plate and in a different schedule with so much of scrutiny of what he is eating every day. And Sri Nitai Das, who cares of what he is eating? That's the difference. But everyone is just eating. This is the destiny. Everyone is just ahar, nidra, bhaya, maithun. But when we come to Krishna consciousness, we change our destiny. Stop ahara, nidra, bhaya, maithun and enter the spiritual world. Realize our spiritual self. Yes. Hare Krishna. All the best. Keep on eating. Don't stop eating. But keep the goal clear of going back to spiritual world. Hare Krishna. Jai Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.